Jimmy Maketta, famously known as the Jesus Killer, was born between 1964 and 1965 in Western Cape, South Africa. Maketta came from a large family of 15 children. His family was relatively dysfunctional given the systemic challenges they grappled with, such as abject poverty and alcoholism. Maketta began displaying signs of psychopathy while he was an adolescent. According to psychiatrists, the signs shown by psychopaths when they are young include arson, harming animals, and bedwetting. For Maketta, harming animals was what members of his community would attest he did the most when he was young. Most notoriously, it is alleged that Maketta not only harmed animals but had carnal knowledge with them. Maketta also allegedly ran from home numerous times and was engaged in numerous fights. After completing grade 6, he ran away from home, lived in the bushes, and started doing petty crimes as a way of getting by. He later moved to Cape Town to live with his sister. Upon moving to Cape Town, Maketta could not find a permanent job, but he did try to get by. Welcome to Silent Shadows. As always, if you appreciate our true crime storytelling, support our bi-weekly series by liking and subscribing. Together, we uncover compelling tales of crimes and mysteries in Kenya and beyond, presenting well-balanced narratives that respect the victims and their loved ones. In the 80s, Maketta's life changed for the better when he met Janetta. Together, they had 3 loving and beautiful sons. According to Janetta, Maketta was for some time the best dad and model husband. She asserted that he would take the family out for trips and dinners. He also valued quality time spent together indoors, and they spent Saturday afternoon watching rugby matches as a family. However, this would change when Janetta and Maketta tied the knot. Janetta told reporters that during their honeymoon, she saw a side of Maketta she had never seen before. She alleged that during an argument, he physically assaulted her, and unfortunately, this became the norm in their marriage, to the extent that he wounded her using a knife and broke her knee once. Maketta also had an affair that he did not try hiding. Having had enough, Janetta divorced Maketta and prohibited him from seeing his 3 sons. Following the divorce, Maketta got married to his childhood friend Anna. Anna described Maketta as soft-spoken and quiet. However, Maketta was physically abusive to her too. Reflecting on one night when Maketta physically abused her, Anna once told the reporters, "The way he beat me that night, I believed he could kill. That night, he carried on like a madman, like he was possessed." Later in the year 2000, Maketta would start taking people's lives. In a letter he wrote to one detective Morris, he described how he committed his first murder, saying that he was wandering in the bushes one Sunday when he came across a woman with a baby. He ambushed the woman gruesomely, taking her life. This would trigger his unquenchable lust and thirst for unaliving people. It is unclear how Maketta ended up in Philippi, one of Cape Town's largest townships. Philippi is also known as an agricultural town that provides the city with its fruits and vegetables. It's also one of the poorest areas, with many farm workers surviving on minimum wage. One thing was certain about Maketta though: he was homeless and a calculating predator who lived in the bushes in the township. On Fridays, Maketta would watch the farm laborers of Philippi from a hill as they drank and made merry. From there, he would select his victims, whom he attacked that night when they were vulnerable from having too much to drink. He did this for 9 months between April and December 2005, where he took the lives of 16 people and violated 19 women. One of his first victims in Philippi in April of 2005 was Bonnie Swartz. She was one of the few victims who lived to tell the tale of her encounter with Maketta, aka the Jesus Killer. Bonnie Swartz narrated that she had taken a stroll to the shops in the evening. On the way to the shop, she approached a bend with a bush. Maketta jumped from the bush with unbuttoned pants. Mortified, Bonnie asked Maketta who he was and what he was doing. Maketta's chilling reply was, I've been watching you. I've been watching you from far away. I've been watching you all the time." Maketta proceeded to drag Bonnie into the bush, where he committed an act of forceful violation of an intimate nature on her and left her tied to the tree. Bonnie's kids grew increasingly worrisome once their mother did not go back home. They tried calling her phone, and to their surprise, a strange man, Maketta, picked the call, telling them, "You'll find her at Cooland, the cabbage patch. She's already deceased. You'll find her there." Bonnie was discovered a day later, luckily still alive. However, his next victim, Miana Jarvis, was not as lucky. A middle-aged woman, her deceased body was found by her grandchildren on Mother's Day, 7th May 2005, in an irrigation dam near their house. An autopsy found that she had been violated and the cause of death was strangulation. The discovery of Miana Jarvis left the Philippi community devastated and in absolute fear. However, this was just the beginning of the terror reigned by Maketta. In the coming weeks, he took the lives of both men and women. Police continued to refuse to acknowledge the presence of a serial killer, yet the community continued to bury one too many of Maketta's victims, to the extent that the Philippi community started hosting mass funerals to bury Maketta's victims. In July 2005, 6 victims of Maketta's vicious acts were pulled from the irrigation dam. It was later established that Maketta's signature had changed from attacking women walking alone to attacking and taking the lives of drunk couples walking together. Maketta continued to terrorize the residents of Philippi. Maketta would then get the nickname the Jesus Killer after 4 women who survived his vicious attacks testified that when Maketta was assaulting them, he had the name Jesus written on his forehead using ash or charcoal. It is important to know that many media sources report up to this day that Maketta earned the nickname the Jesus Killer since he had the word Jesus tattooed on his upper lip, with some saying that the tattoo was on his chest. However, this was dismissed upon Maketta's arrest since he did not have any tattoos. At the end of July 2005, all of a sudden, the murders stopped. The residents of Philippi breathed easier. However, the nightmare returned in October 2005 when Emmanuel and her husband Lucas became Maketta's 7th and 8th victims respectively. Miana, who lived to tell the tale, said that Maketta attacked them in their house where they were sleeping. Maketta violated Miana and dragged her husband Lucas outside. Unfortunately, in the morning, Lucas, now deceased, was found near the dam next to their neighbor who was also deceased. However, these murders came with a twist, a change in Maketta's signature. Miana, who survived the attack, said Maketta was not alone but had 2 accomplices. By mid-October, Maketta, the Jesus Killer, had taken the lives of 8 people and violated 6 women in Philippi. The police unfortunately continued to deny the presence of a serial killer in Philippi, even though the Philippi community leader Abe Franzman had compiled all the assaults and murders and a pattern was evident. The community also accused the police of doing a shabby job with the investigations by not collecting evidence at the crime scenes or interviewing witnesses. However, Maketta, the Jesus Killer, desired and craved media attention. As a result, he started sending messages to the police, letting them know where to find his victims' bodies. Alongside these letters, Maketta continued to further taunt the Philippi residents. This time, he would start sending notes and painting graffiti to specific residents of Philippi, letting them know he was coming for them. Without the help of the police, the Philippi residents self-organized to protect themselves. They organized neighborhood watch teams, vigilante gangs, and people started staying in each other's houses to avoid being alone. In November 2005, following mounting media and public pressure, the police acted. However, they arrested the wrong man, Stanley Martins, who was arrested walking alone at night. No evidence connected Stanley to the Philippi murders. Even the survivors of Maketta, who were shown Stanley's photo, deny that he was the serial killer. Following the lack of evidence, Stanley was released from police custody. Finally, a breakthrough in the case came in December 2005, when the police found a cell phone in one of the crime scenes attributed to Maketta. Upon closely inspecting the phone, police found a number dialed 8 times. The number led them to Grabo, which led them to Maketta's son. It was from his son that they learned that the Jesus killer's full name was Jimmy Maketta. They also learned that Jimmy Maketta was out on parole for attempted murder. They also learned that he painted people's houses as his day job and that he had been homeless living in the bushes of Philippi, which explained how he was so well acquainted with the terrain in the region. Following this information, Captain Jonathan Morris, the lead investigator in the case, together with his team, they tracked Jimmy Maketta to Constantia in Cape Town, where he was doing a paint job. Jimmy Maketta was finally arrested on 20th December 2005. Upon his arrest, he led the police to a nearby railway station where he was living in a bush. He was then taken to Belleville South Police Station for questioning. Maketta went on to confess to the Philippi murders which were both known and unknown to the police. One thing that struck many was how normal Maketta looked. Psychiatrists described Maketta as a loner, charming, well-groomed, soft-spoken, and meticulous. But one thing was clear: he was a psychopath who lacked remorse, as when asked about his victims, he merely shrugged. At times, he appeared bored and aloof. During the court trial, numerous pieces of evidence were stacked against him. This evidence included DNA samples, handwriting samples, and trips that Maketta had taken with the police to crime scenes, detailing the crimes he had committed. However, the court trial was bizarre to say the least. During the entire court trial, Maketta hid his face behind an A4 paper in a plastic sleeve. The word Jesus Killer was written on the A4 paper. Maketta also requested a visit from a Sangoma, a witch doctor, claiming that he was hearing predator noises in his stomach. Jimmy Maketta, aka the Jesus Killer, pleaded guilty to 47 charges. That is 18 carnal violations of both men and women, 16 murders, 6 house break-ins, 2 robberies, 2 attempted murders, 2 assaults, and 1 kidnapping. Before being convicted of the 47 charges, Maketta said in the court, "To make this easy on me, I will take it all on me and plead guilty." Maketta was sentenced to 25 years in jail, and he smiled as he was led out of the courthouse. So, was justice served? Did Maketta get a fair sentence, commensurate with his crimes? No, 25 years is too little a time for Maketta to serve behind bars. Since his imprisonment in 2007, ironically, Maketta claims to have found Jesus and gotten saved. He also wrote one last letter to his first wife, Janetta, which gave law enforcement a sense of when Maketta snapped. In his letter to Janetta, Maketta wrote, "Janetta, when you left me, I was in and out of prison. That's when this sickness was overtaking me like a lion or a tiger. It grew inside me. From the time you left me, I started hating men and women. Tell my children I am not dead. I am alive, and they will one day see me again. I'm just going to rest for a bit, and then one day, when everything is better, I will be with them again." Our hearts are heavy as we extend our deepest condolences to the families and friends of those who lost their lives to Maketta's heinous acts. We also send profound love and light to the survivors of Maketta's vicious acts, hoping that strength and healing may find its way to their hearts. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be notified when the next video is up. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and always trust your gut.